Well, hi everyone. Here we are under the Ark. The Ark Encounter, the life-size Ark.
It's huge.
At Williamstown, Kentucky. It is huge. And as you can see, the queue lines are all empty. And the reason they're empty, Tim?
Because the atheists are right. Nobody comes here anymore, right?
That's right. Not right now, not when it's closed to the public.
Right. Nobody's allowed to come here.
Yeah, pretty sad really. But we just pray that we can reopen soon. So be praying about that. We're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look today at something you would know nothing about when you come to the Ark Encounter. You wouldn't even guess it unless you had obtained one of our study guides, because we're going to talk about Noah language. So is it true we invented, well, not me, but I mean the designers, our artists, invented a Noah language, and it's in various places in the Ark. We're going to show you a couple of places here in the queue lines, and we're going to get in the elevator, go upstairs, and show you a couple of places upstairs, so that when you come to the Ark, you will actually be able to look for this. You wouldn't even really look for it if you hadn't heard about this, and you wouldn't even know what it means. But Noah language was invented, as I understand it, it's a cross between Hebrew and Australian, because that was Noah language before the flood. Is that right, Tim?
I think only after the curse is when the Australian part came in.
Oh,
Just
okay.
kidding.
So,
But yeah, it's actually what it is. It's what we did for Noah language. It wasn't just artists; it was content people involved as well. We had to make sure we got the
and you're our
spelling correct.
content manager,
Yeah, we had to
right?
make sure the
Yeah.
spelling was correct. Otherwise, if it was Alan, the kids would have no hope of translating this.
Yes, that is true.
so Alan,
So-
what's your position?
I'm a production designer.
Okay, so production designer and content manager.
That's
So
right.
Tim and Alan, you're going to show us where this Noah language is used, and if people get the educational guides, it's already in there, right?
Yeah, so these educational guides were put together by Dr. Jennifer Rivera, who is an education specialist. In fact, that's what her doctorate is in education. So she put together study guides for different, well, they're not really, they're educational guides that you can get for the Curation Museum or the Ark Encounter, and they have different ones for each age group. And so in here on page 30, there is the key, or the
That's the
decoder.
key.
That's the decoding page. So if you go there, you can see all of the different symbols. So there are 37 symbols, 26 different letters that correspond to English, and then there's one for a space, and then there's 10 numerals. And so we can, what we did is we wrote things out in English, and then Alan translated into Noah language and wrote it right to left. So it goes right to left like Hebrew goes right
And
to left.
actually, this is in a number of exhibits, and people would just look at it and say, "Oh yeah, it's some, the artist just drew some nice things," but it's actually a language.
Right, you can go through and you can translate everything. They have real meaning to each of the things, and they usually fit the context. Sometimes it's a little bit goofy for what they did, or just a little note from a family member to another person. But Alan, if you
In
want
other words, they hid some messages in,
Right.
in it, yeah, just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, as we laid out these exhibits where the family has been Noah's family, we wanted to have a layer of detail that would express what they're thinking, what they're doing. And so this Noah language was something that we wanted to just have as an added layer. If you go past it fast, it'll just look like a note. But if you have the time to slow down and decode it, it's a really fun activity and will give you more of a sense of what's going on in Noah and his family.
And that's just one of the activities in the educational guides.
Exactly. So yeah, we had one of our own graphic designers did a beautiful job create this typography, and as Tim explained, it's read from right to left. Instead of spaces, there's this space symbol, so there's non-stop characters as you read it. But yeah, it's really cool. So if you want, we can take a look at right behind us. This is
By
one
the
of
way,
first.
just a little point here. No animal could ever invent a language.
That's right.
Only
yeah.
human beings
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
You mean dolphins didn't do that?
What's that?
Dolphins don't do that?
And apes don't do it.
No, they don't.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And monkeys don't do it.
Yes, we are made in God's image. Yeah, so we do creative things, really cool things. So yeah, under the Ark here, the scenes that we have set up, kind of in the time frame of what we're showing here. This is before the flood. Noah and his family are preparing to get on the Ark. So we have construction themes down here. We see some of Noah's drawings that he's done of the Ark, and you can see on here, if you were to decode these, you would see 30 cubits by 50 cubits by 300 cubits. There's a fun little note here about watch your fingers as you assemble these pieces. This explains about how the air is going to catch this bow fin. So yeah, just getting into some of the engineering and some of the fun character of what's going on here.
See, a lot of people just walk past these signs and say, "Oh, yeah, those are nice signs." But those who actually, we have a lot of students and others come and use our educational guides. there are fun activities and there's messages here.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So-
yeah, it's great.
Can we go up to the next
Yeah,
one
let's
then?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
And so this area this is more of the construction. The other thing, the next thing we're going to look at is more of the cargo that they had to bring on board the Ark. And so Alan made a checklist of a lot of the different items and put that into Noah language.
So you'll see, even in these little areas where we have props that don't have Noah language, all of these ideas, they fit in the general themes of preparing for the flood. So you'll see boxes and pots and food gathered together as Noah and his family are preparing for their time on the Ark. So we're approaching here the checklist desk. And kind of the story here was that we thought someone in Noah's family, one of his sons or daughter-in-laws, they would have been checking off the list of all the things that they want to bring with them. So if you were to come up here, you can see this is all written in what we've called Noah language, but in here we have it in English. So grain mix, barrels, pots, grapes, all these different foods that Noah would have brought for him and his family. Wheel carts, which we'll see one being constructed up on deck 2. Iron and bronze, which are mentioned early in the Bible. So yeah, it's just kind of...
So get a shot of the sign now so we can see. See, the sign uses the Noah language, and you've got to have the key, you've got to have the code to be able to translate that. And again, that code's in our educational guides. But it's just to show you, when they constructed these exhibits, don't just walk past them and say, oh, that's nice. We wanted you to understand there's a lot of extra things in all the exhibits, and the Noah language is just one of them.
Right, we put a detail into all of them, not just the props that are there. In fact, there's reasons for those props, but the signage, everything that we did in there was intentional, and we put a lot of detail into all of them. Things that you could spend a whole day just trying to discover those things.
Yeah, and in this case right here, the scene, we have these little nuts and this cup right here, just as if one of Noah's family members was right here a moment ago. He had to step away, and you see how he left things just like they were.
Okay, so we're going to go up in the elevator to, what are we going to, deck 2?
Yeah. So we'll go next to the animal care exhibit.
Okay, and we'll continue to practice social distancing as we do this.
That's right. Yeah, deck 2 is where we have most of the Noah
language. We work
language.
with each other all the time anyway. And so I forgot where we were, actually. Okay. All right. Oh, can't get that to work. Oh, I didn't use my security code. Oh, there we are.
All the things we have to do differently with the virus right now.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Now you get a little sneak peek at the elevator that most guests don't ever see.
This elevator brings back a lot of memories of a lot of sweat and tears a few years ago when we were living here, installing all these exhibits. Good memories.
And he means that Alan
So
did live
in
here
other
a couple
words,
times.
You basically lived in this elevator.
Alan slept in one of the exhibits before.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Yeah, he did. I don't think he had to. He just wanted to because he loved it so much.
All right. So which exhibit are we going to see some more Noah language?
We're going to go to the animal care exhibit. So this is the one that... This is the exhibit that a lot of people think of where it shows how they were able to get rid of all the waste and how they got fresh water, how they were able to get light into the Ark. And
I'm not game to go through this one. It's too spooky.
that's the one that he slept in.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
This is one of the hidden jewels of exhibits here at the Ark. Kids Spooky Walkthrough, there's nothing like it. It's awesome.
You can tell who the designer was for that one.
All right, so we're walking down deck 2 right now
Yep.
and walking past the cages, the big cages here, and our kinds exhibit to the left.
Yes, and then
And
right
then
after the kinds exhibit, we get to the animal care
Then we
exhibit.
come up to the one that tells you about the cages and how it would have operated inside the Ark.
Right, so you see the large cages there, and then we have a diorama explaining some of those cages, how they work. And then on some of these signs, we have more Noah language. So we have some Noah language there. This one's referring to the larger animals. And so I think that one, that Noah language says something to the effect that they're grateful that the Lord brought juveniles to the Ark.
The the design of the signage in here, we want it to feel kind of like these are Noah's drawings. So that papyrus background, kind of the sketchy illustration look, it's like Noah was designing all these. So it just made sense to incorporate some of these fun little personal notes that Noah could have
See,
put
I
on
didn't
here.
even know there was Noah language there.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd seen that before.
Yeah, we have some there. We have some on this one
Oh,
too.
look at this. There's more over here too.
So this one says, "Sure glad Ham designed these to lighten our workload." Because
They didn't say
think-
Ken Ham designed these.
No, it didn't. We wanted them to work properly.
That's true.
We had one of our engineers design
I
these.
am not an engineer,
Yeah,
believe me.
Not either. But that's what it says there. And so that's one of the things they could do to care for all of the animals. If you have an efficient system, you can do that. This one's pretty basic, and you can kind of guess what it is since these are for reptiles and amphibians. This one says, "Watch out for snakes."
And one special note you'll notice in a lot of these illustrations, a handsome gentleman who is demonstrating how to use these things. That's one of our amazing artists, Johnny White. So keep an eye out for him.
Where's the handsome gentleman?
Right there!
Yeah, we have a lot of fun in our design studio. So
I
Ken, you
noticed-
might recognize that animal
I
there.
noticed you put koalas here.
Yeah, well, it's one of those creatures that people wonder, well, how could they
Get-
not only get to Australia, but how could he feed them on the Ark
Right.
because they only eat eucalyptus, right?
Although they've become very specialized
Yeah,
now.
that's all they eat today.
So we've got to remember there's been natural selection, specialization.
Yep, and they can eat other foods. They just don't. They
Right.
choose not to.
They choose not to, yeah. So,
And then
okay.
we move on. There's not any more in this part of the exhibit. We need to move into the next area, what we call like
But
the.
I love this exhibit where it shows you how they could get air circulating through the ark and light
And what a lot of people really like is that one where it shows how you get rid of the waste.
right. In fact, I have a lot of young people who say that was one of their favorite exhibits.
Really?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of men that have told me that's their favorite exhibit. I like how they show how they get rid of all the animal waste, and whatever reason, that's what catches their
Okay,
attention.
so more Noah language. Where do we get more Noah
Now,
language?
throughout a lot of these working scenes or these areas, there's Noah language woven throughout these.
Yeah, I was just going to say, these next 4 bays we've called working quarters. So this is where we see Noah, some of his family members, what it would have been like during the Ark, what their living situation would have been like.
How did I find all the animals?
Oh, it's an animatronic
Well,
Noah.
That's right, Noah's
It
going to
really
tell you.
wasn't hard to find.
He answers the questions.
Yes.
Since God brought them right to me, just as he said he would. Huh, I just wondered when he would send them. We were nearly finished building the ark when hundreds of spectacular animals arrived. I should have known. God's timing is perfect, and he always keeps his promises.
So on this monitor here, it comes up with all the questions that you can ask.
And one of them
Let's see.
says, "What are you working on right now?" And you can see that Noah's writing something right now. So if you touch the one that says, "What are you working on right now?" he'll tell you what that is.
Well, I must
Oh,
get back to
okay.
work.
What are
that
you
one.
working on right now? All right, let's do that one.
Ah, good question. Right now, I'm documenting some of the terrible things that happened before the flood. I need to warn my children and their children after them what can happen if they do not follow the Creator and his ways.
So is that Noah language there that he's writing?
That is Noah language, and that's actually just taken right from Genesis 6.
Oh, is it?
Describing some of the wickedness in the world before the flood.
Well, there we are.
Then over here, we have another desk. We
Well,
thought
back to
one
my
of Noah's
writing.
one of Noah's sons, perhaps Shem, is keeping track of the animals being cared for. So we have different cages in these columns. It's like an ancient Excel sheet, and then a sheet behind that looking at the food remaining.
Yeah, we want people to understand, Noah and his family, they weren't sort of, brutes that, were half human, half ape, living in caves or something. These were intelligent human beings.
Exactly. And so what we did is we divided up the workload among them. Ham is seen as more of the engineer type, mechanically inclined, whereas Japheth is more of the food. He's the one growing crops and everything, getting the food ready. And then Shem is the one who's more of the animal expert. And of course, the wives would help out in those areas as well. But that's kind of how we kept the story straight as we went through it.
And they would do things the way we normally would do things.
Yes.
In other words,
Yeah.
devise a plan, let's keep track of all these things. I think many people just have the idea they jumped in this ship with a heap of animals, threw them some food, and
Right.
tried to survive for a year. But it would have been very organized, I think.
Yeah, our team did a lot of thinking about what kind of cages could have been used, what kind of food storage systems could have been used to automate a lot of the care for the animals. There's so many animals, but it was doable for the amount of people that were on the Ark.
So, where do we go next?
We'll go
The next
to the
exhibit.
library. So Noah's library, this is one of my favorite exhibits here. This really kind of represents what Noah possibly could have brought with him from the pre-flood world to remember good things about the world that God created. We have a lot of scrolls here in our scroll shelf, and we have a few.
In other words, there's no reason that they couldn't have even had writing
exactly
before the flood.
And we make note about that. I believe could Noah read and write? So we mentioned that here. The archaeological discovery of the Ebla tablets reveals that some of Noah's close descendants utilized a sophisticated writing system. So yeah, we believe Noah very well could have had writing.
So this is Noah language over here.
It is.
So what's the translation of that?
So that one says, is that the journal scroll or is that the prayer? That's the scroll. Okay, so this one says, the 8 of us entered the ark along with every beast after its kind, every cattle after its kind, every creeping thing after its kind, and every bird after its kind. And they came into the ark with us, 2 by 2, all creatures in which is the breath of life. We entered as God commanded, and he shut us in.
And you know what? I just want people to understand how much work has gone into these exhibits. When you realize that's not just someone scrolling away, they actually invented Noah language. You guys invented Noah language, and you actually know what the translation is, and it's all written there, and it's all meaningful.
Right. Yeah, so this one we're showing some of the studies, the animal studies that they may have done. They had to know what to feed the animals, how to, take care of them, how often to feed them, how much to feed them. So we envision it as in the years that Noah was building the ark, then you could have Shem, and actually we have Noah's wife being an animal expert as well. They're studying these creatures, and that way they know how to take care of them. So here's some of their notes for that, and we've got 2 of them laid out there, and there's little notes talking about the different creatures and what to feed them.
So on this particular case, on the right side, we have 2 different animals on here. We said that this one, from Noah's perspective, may have been known as something like a knuckle sloth. So we have little notes like growls loud in the mornings, likes to slobber, watch for claws. Like Noah and his family, they've been learning, studying these animals. And the way we're trying to set up this scene is that these areas here are full of studies of different animals. So there may be 2 animals on each of these scrolls, and this door has just been opened, it's been unlatched, and they've just pulled this scroll out. Maybe
You've got titles for the shelves up there.
Yeah, so we have titles. Not only are there animal studies, there's plant studies, there's family records, there's mechanisms, ship drawings, heroes of old, stories, things like that throughout here. So we're thinking Noah and his family, they've done a lot of thinking, and they've brought along with them much of what they've learned. And then, back in that corner we have a woven genealogy.
So that's actually Genesis 5, the ages of each person. So Adam was 130 when he had Seth. Seth was 105 when he had Enos. Enos was 90 years old. It goes right down,
And
right out of Genesis 5.
These are great for kids, young people, when they come through the Ark and they use the educational guides.
Yeah.
They can actually then go through and look at what they all say, and they can get so much more out of each exhibit.
And there's even another level of detail, like with this creature, what we call the Thylacothymilus. And you can see him on level 2. He kind of looks like a saber-toothed cat, but it's not a saber-toothed cat. But this one, there's even a note from Ham to his family members. Right there, it says, watch out for his sharp claws. Well, if you happen to read the Remnant trilogy, which are the Noah novels, they're kind of like our official backstory for Noah that I was involved in writing. In one of the scenes, Ham gets attacked by this creature and gets a big scar across his face. If you look at Ham when you're in the Ark Encounter, there's 2 different places where you can see him really well. You can see a big scar on his cheek. So we've worked it into the storyline here and also into the novels, and so there's all sorts of levels of detail.
People would never know that. And there are a lot of other levels of detail.
Right,
in
even
other
the
areas.
map up there, that is the world that we use for the story, that the novels, that they are based on those maps. So you'll get to go to all those places and see what they're like if you read
And it was
those.
one continent before the flood.
Yes. Yep. And we saw it we'll see it in one of the other rooms that Noah's got a globe there, which was back in the previous room. Yeah. And it shows that one continent. So all of these are meant to be one consistent message. And so we work together all the time to make sure we had that.
Alan, I see some yellow sticky notes around the place.
Yes, so while we've been shut down for about 2 weeks, we haven't been doing nothing. Part of our team has been categorizing a number of our props here. So you'll see some sticky notes. And actually, the reason we're categorizing these is we have hopes of eventually doing a Noah's House attraction here at the Ark, in which we'd replicate a number of props we've already done. So we've been, capturing, categorizing these props.
And there's more Noah language down there, I see.
Yeah, and that one is a prayer from Noah. That it would take you a while to go through it and translate it, or decode it, I guess would be the right way to say it. But that one starts off with, "Great Creator, how majestic are your ways. They are greater than all others. You spoke and the world was created. You spoke again and the flood covered the earth." And then he goes on and thanking God for his protection.
Wow.
So we had to think of what would Noah say, what would he write, and then let Alan translate that into Noah language for us.
With this behind the scenes tour, and we'll do more as well, I wanted people to get an appreciation for levels of detail that you would never know otherwise. You would never guess. And you just look at this and say, oh yeah, just interesting illustrations. But no, there's been a lot of thought, actually intelligence put into this.
Well, that came from the content. I'm not sure about the...
No way, dude, no way.
Where's the wheel cart? Is that,
Perfect.
Oh, it's right there.
So we got more Noah writing in here.
This is a fun one here.
So here we have Noah's workshop. You see woodworking of different sorts going on here. On the left table, you'll see a design, a drawing for what we ended up calling a wheel cart.
It was supposed to be a wheelbarrow.
So the story, what happened was I was trying to ink the words wheelbarrow, and I guess I misspelled it.
No, you ran out of room to finish the last two letters, and he said, nobody's going to care. And I looked at it for a little while, and I thought, the B in wheelbarrow looks a lot like our C. We can kind of tweak that and change it to a C. And then the last R, we can change to a T. So now it says wheel cart, and it fits on there, whereas before it was supposed to be wheelbarrow. So I tease Alan about his spelling.
I would never have guessed that from just looking at that.
Right.
So now we call these wheel carts on the Ark.
So that's how the term wheel cart came to be.
It's from Alan misspelling things, and I had to fix it.
Then on the right side of the exhibit, you'll see we have a number of drawings of bird studies. So we're thinking someone in Noah's family had a fascination with birds. We have an actual taxidermy parrot that was designed to be the Ark kind parrot up kind of in the top there on top of the rope. And then we're seeing here that this person is looking at birds, chiseling a bird, and he or she has made these notes about birds.
And of course we have a number of birds in cages in the living quarters.
That's right. Yes, exactly. So yeah, you can come and translate. You'll read different observations about birds in these notes here.
It's a little hard for them to be able to get to these ones, but maybe if you have a good camera, you can zoom in and take a picture and then do it later.
Yeah.
Because we don't let you back in this exhibit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we may get cut with the saw. And then this is the last one of the exhibits with a lot of this Noah language.
So yeah, this is our blacksmith, and this was a fun exhibit to work through. But so in addition to all the metalworking tools and things, props that we have different Noah notes drawings up here. So up here we have some dinosaurs and animals that we think someone in Noah's family, they could have been studying these animals just for fun, drawing things. In reality, these drawings that we did, they were based off of some of the sketches that one of our artists did for the Ark kind animals that we have in the Ark. So you can come and translate these. You'll see different notes about these animals. Then in the back wall of the exhibit here, you'll see a design for a crane that Noah perhaps could have used as he built the Ark. And above that, a design for a portion of Noah's house that this house could have looked like.
So we've just looked at just a handful of the exhibits here on the second deck. How many exhibits in the entire 3 decks? It's 180 or something?
Well, there were originally like 132 bays, but some of those are taken up by the restrooms and other things. But as far as exhibits, I mean, we have over 100,000 square feet of exhibit space in the Ark, over 110,000.
And actually, if you include the space in the towers, the restrooms and all that, I think altogether there's 250,000 square feet in the whole thing.
Right, plus the exhibits go vertically as well. I mean, they're all over the place, so it's not just the floor space.
A lot of people walk past here and don't even think about looking up at the mezzanine.
Yeah,
Although when you walk up the ramp, you see them, but there's a level of detail up there.
Alan is the prop guy, so if you're wondering where all these things came from, why we have props everywhere, it's Alan.
The mezzanines, they're telling a whole story too. So yeah, don't miss those. You can get a special glimpse of them as you go up on the ramps. But we, in a lot of cases, we tried to correspond what's going on up in the mezzanine with the exhibit below. So down from Kids Spooky all the way down on decks 2 and 3, look up there because we're doing storytelling up there as well. And that was the first project when I got hired. Patrick put me on. Patrick Marsh, our head of creative. And so there's a lot of fun details up there too.
Well, there we are. There's some level of detail you just would not have known about. And we've got more to come in future behind-the-scenes tours that we're going to be doing. And particularly while we're closed to the public right now, we will be airing these so that you can see them and to get some information ready for when you come to the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum. We give you information about that as well. We've already done some of those, and we'll be airing some more as well. So, wow, there's so much here.
There is, and Alan may not be able to spell prop correctly, but he sure can design them.
You sure can design stuff, yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes tour, and maybe some of you would like to learn Noah language. And the code is actually in the educational guide, right? That's where we have the code, and then you can maybe start deciphering it all through the Ark.
Yep.
So, all right, thanks for watching.